Hello everyone! I want to introduce you to this fun container from Accent Decor that I've been playing with lately. I love this nature-inspired vessel. It looks like a giant lotus pod. It's so cool. You can't ever go wrong when the inspiration is nature-driven like this beautiful, absolutely beautiful pottery. For most eyes, you look at this and you're thinking designing in this looks pretty simple. Just fill the holes with flower stems until it's fully stuffed, short and tight. This actually makes a very static, boring design, a roundy-moundy that sits heavy on the pottery, and it will obscure the unique, natural, inspired beauty of this container. To figure out the best logic behind designing in this container, I plan to create an armature, which will help in placing flowers to hold its spot, also a structure that will help shape the silhouette that's flattering to the shape of this container. So I'm looking at this and I'm looking to see where I want exposed. So first, make sure to have several yarn wrapped middle lino extenders and also aluminum wire that's been wrapped with yarn as well. And of course, don't forget to have some green bind wire on hand for tying. We're going to create a template which will allow for secure placements of stems to cradle flowers and to allow some of the lotus form to be seen, not completely covered. Create a design which is a perfect complement of flowers to container in a lovely styling, hopefully in sync with the current vibe. Now let me show you how. So as I was looking earlier, I'm looking to see the shape of this. There's one area that's a little bit more irregular than the other. So obviously I'm going to sort of keep that area exposed so that you can see that it's a lotus pod. So I'm going to take my first middle lino extender, and it's been wrapped in two colors actually. It's got the lighter sort of celadon green as well as sort of an apple green. It's rather long. So what I'm going to do is actually thread that through so that we can get this coming through into one hole and out the other. We're going to start with that, and I'm going to tighten it up somewhat and just pull so that then I can go ahead and bind wire that right there so it holds it in place. This way, some of the middle lino extender that's on the inside is not going to be floating in water. It's more closer to the top edge. And I'm going to take the end of this middle lino extender and thread it so that it goes in and out again. This one here is kind of giving me a little hassle, so I'm going to just use this to bring it through. So I'm going to maybe go in and tuck this in so that it crosses over and it gives me an interesting upper layer to this structure. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to take my second middle lino extender, which is a little bit thinner, so it has probably less middle lino in it in this particular extender, probably 2 or 3 instead of the usual 4, 5, or 6 middle lino inside. So this one here, I'm going to actually bring it in from this side and bring it through to the front. So now I'm still trying to keep this area exposed so that it becomes an area that's seen and not covered up. So I'm going to go ahead and also attach this to this extender. So basically what I'm doing is building a nice and rigid armature that I can count on for placement of flower material a little bit later. So maybe this one here, I'm going to go and extend out like that. It's all bendable because there's aluminum wire inside of it. And we can still even adjust even after the fact because it's all wired. So this one here, I'm going to attach over on this side so that it has sort of almost like a horseshoe effect, the shaping, so that this area is open, but it creates a nice silhouette. And I need to kind of have a look at this as I'm doing this. So I want to create a shape that's going to be flattering for building with flowers, branches, and vines. So this one here, we'll just leave it like that. This one here, maybe we're going to bend it up a little bit so that it has a little bit more of an upward flow, so that you can sort of create a little bit of a valley in here and leaving this area exposed. Now I'm going to use a little bit of this wire that's covered with yarn, so they're thinner. This is what kind of makes it look a little bit more like a vine. It has a little bit more finer tendril-like feel by the time we finish using it in this structure building. So with this attached and allowing this to maybe go out a little bit further. So I'm just sort of randomly trying to create a sort of a backbone or like a silhouette that I can see could be very effective. So with this one, I'm going to just kind of kink it up a little bit so that it looks like the end of the tendril. And then maybe this one here, I'm going to attach it to this, the same piece of extender. And that this one is just going to float out forward so that you can see basically how this looks. I think I'm going to use one more. So this really becomes a attaching point, but also helps with the placement of stems in some of these holes. It gives it a point of attachment for some of the stems that goes in, that it's not just floating and moving about within those holes. It has a little bit of support with it being attached to the container itself. So I am going to just add this extension right to the front side so that it has a little bit of presence on the front side. So it's not just totally vacant, that it has places to attach some of the stems of flowers that may be designed in here. Some of this is just sort of random placing. You're kind of imagining in your head what the silhouette of this design may look like. So I'm thinking right now that it has a little bit of an upward sweep, curvilinear, not specifically crescent, not specifically Hogarth, just curvilinear as you might see in the garden where the vines might grow. And so maybe something like this just for the time being, like that. So this is what we might sort of start with. And after I've decided that this more or less work, then I'm going to go in and trim out the ends of all these bind wire so that it's nice and clean for the final construction. You want to make sure that all mechanics are cleaned up so that you don't leave it exposed at the end when the arrangement is finally finished. You can't forget that this is some of the final steps to make sure that you finessed the finish of the mechanics in the design. The beauty of this, just remember, with this structure, is that it's all, you can shape it any way you want because it is made out of wire. If I decide that the stem that I want to use, I want it to lean more further backwards, I can use it and help this to support that. That's to be a spine for that. So that I can actually have this kind of a flow in here as well as this flow front to back, and it's still all very adjustable. So basically that's what I'm going to start with. And I don't know if you can see or not, but when you look deep in, none of this is actually going to be so much in water because it's actually attached to the top side of the pod, so that it's not going to get soaking wet. But it's nice and solid. It holds up like it's really solid mechanics. For those who would like to see the flowering of this structure, catch me this Sunday, June the 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I'll be finishing the design right here on YouTube in a special live tutorial. I'll also be fielding questions about the design, some of the products that I use, and any other topics that come to mind at that time. I look forward to talking design with you all in this virtual format. It's going to be fun. Until then, make sure to like this video if you found it helpful, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for future updates, including this weekend's live show.